Hello and welcome back to another edition of Ask the Pastor. This is a question I received via text. The question reads as follows. Just as there were councils to decide what books were included in the Bible, did they ever take pieces of a book out, or was it the whole book or nothing? And then the question drills down to the seminal question of what about the book of Daniel, the 13th and 14th chapter? Are they legitimate? Well, simply put, going to back up a little bit, the 13th and 14th chapters of Daniel were not so much taken out of Scripture as they were added later. And here's how it happened. Remember back to the Babylonian captivity. Eventually, after the people of Israel were freed, a remnant returned to Israel, just as Isaiah prophesied. But then there were still other faithful Jews who migrated or were dispersed throughout the known world. Those in diaspora, those who were dispersed throughout the known world, eventually began to rely less and less on their original language and more on the language of the world in which they lived. And that language was a form or a dialect of Greek. Greek, like all languages, is constantly growing and evolving. So while the Greek high arts were generally performed in classical Greek, a dialect that is associated closely with ancient Attic Greek, a new dialect became the language of trade and the language of the governance of the Roman Empire in the Mediterranean, and that language is what we know as Koine Greek. The New Testament was first written in Koine Greek, and then, say, translated through the ages into other languages, say English for an example. And that's how we have come to know it. Well, the Jews in the diaspora, they eventually translated their scriptures, the Hebrew scriptures, from Hebrew into Koine Greek, and that translation is known to us as the Septuagint, or literally the 70 books. It is the oldest complete translation of the Hebrew scriptures into a new language. And it was during that time when scribes added new portions to the texts that existed earlier. And some of these new portions exist only in Koine Greek and have never existed in Hebrew. The 13th and 14th chapter of the book of Daniel are just such examples of scripture that were added during the translation. Now that is actually nothing new for biblical translation. Even when a Bible is copied from a language into the same language, oftentimes scribes will try to improve upon it by adding things. For instance, there is an added ending to the book of Job that really changes the flavor and tenor of the entire text. There is an added ending to the gospel according to St. Mark that changes the tenor of the entire text. There is an added beginning and ending to the gospel of St. John. So this is not something that is anything new, but rather something that is part of a scribal tradition. So, some Bibles that you might find on the shelves, say a Bible that is translated from Hebrew into Greek, into the Septuagint, and then into, say, English, well, that Bible would include the 13th and 14th chapter of the book of Daniel. However, other Bibles that are translated, say, directly from the ancient Hebrew and into modern English, they wouldn't. So you see, it's a matter of translation mainly. So, if you have any other questions for Ask the Pastor, as always, please contact me. You can email me, text me, call the office, or call my phone, and I'll make sure to make a video for you. Thank you very much.